So these 4 circles kind of represent 4 domains or states, really. And over here, on the very far left, is control. Over here we have order. This domain is chaos. And this is Kamos, or I like to say, probably completely incorrectly, Chamos. It just sounds good. So, the world is inherently chaotic, but we make sense of it and we bring order to it. If we bring too much order to it, we enter this kind of domain of control, where if we think back to our first game, our second game rather, we had a situation where there was so much control that there was really very little happening. So we had a situation where everybody was waiting for instruction and they couldn't move without it. And we had kind of stasis and lockdown. Creativity or taking the initiative got very quite boring, I think. And the novelty of it made it quite funny. But it's a state in which nothing much can happen without somebody saying that it can, and giving very clear and specific instructions, which means things move, can be very slowly, people can feel very frustrated, and things can feel very stuck.
So I can speak, as you were reflecting on the different games, I've been taking a little bit of notes, so I can speak some of them. One of the coaches said it was very difficult to put myself in the position of the players. It's simply knowing what's left and right. As one of the players spoke, it's very difficult to not do, right? To not act when you see that you could be acting. And so this sense of control is really limiting the space for people in the system to move and to act on what they see as needed. But then there was also the voice of somebody saying, I really enjoyed having someone else have the responsibility. So there's different...
so we can give away our responsibility, give away our power. For the coaches, it can be very stressful. It means that all the power seems to reside with you, all the responsibility seems to reside with you. It's not only does not much happen without your say-so, but you're holding all of this power and all of this responsibility. So it's a space of where sometimes not a lot can happen, very little creativity, a lot of frustration on the part of people who just want to know what needs to be done, but just feel like they can't act. And the other end of the scale, we've got this space called Chaos, which is destructive chaos. It's kind of a space where there's so little shared understanding of what's going on that we don't know how to act, so it can be a very destructive space. It can be a space of stasis, yes, because there's so little information to go on that we find ourselves paralysed. But in that space then we can fill it with all sorts of other things. It can be a space of a lot of conflict and tension as well, as much as this.
Yeah, so a few things that were spoken, that there was no structure. So basically also not really a game going on. So this is really the complete destruction, right? Destructive space. There was a question of what's the test here? So what's kind of the purpose, or what are we really doing together? So there's a lot of unclarity around what it is, where is it that we want to be going together? There was not a lot of communication, right? There was just a ball in the space. So not a lot of working together in that way. Yeah, and again, just not really being clear on the goal. And somebody spoke, it also became boring. Right? Those are a few.
To Two very different spaces, this one of lockdown and control and power being held at the top and little ability to act, even if you know what needs to be done. And this where no shared understanding, no rules, destructive chaos, and yet similar kind of outcomes, very hard to come together, to create, to innovate, to act, to move. And both ends of this spectrum, frustration, tension, difficulty. And in the middle we've got these two spaces of order and chaos. And so in that third game,
one of the things is that there were different roles to play. So people naturally took the role of, how do you say that, the keeper? The goalkeeper. And there was a sense of we all knew what we were doing, so we just got on with it. Because the rules of the game is clear, the structure is clear, so there was enough order to allow sort of chaos coming in, right? Because we still don't know exactly how the game was going to be played, but we knew the rules of the game. There was a level of teamwork, more so than in the other ones. An observation that there were maybe less goals, but there was a lot more fun. There was maybe more working together in that way. More communication. People taking self-responsibility, which is a big piece in here. And somehow it having more life to it, which is really, I guess this might be where all healthy living systems, right? They thrive on that good balance of order and chaos.
Can I just ask a clarification question? Are we talking about the third game being in that sweet spot in the middle?
yeah, absolutely. So what we talk about in this practice is the idea of walking this thing called the Chaordic Path. You can think about it as a walk or a dance, really, because there's no right, true path through this. It's about sensing how much order needs to be brought to the chaos in service of purpose. And purposes really are the thing that allows us to hold ourselves through these spaces to navigate this balance between chaos and order. In a more traditional hierarchical management structure, we're much more towards the side of order. We're trying to stay out of control. You know, we like people to take the initiative. We like to work in organisations which have creativity and innovation, but we've inherited management structures or a sense of a need for managing risk that mean that we have a much more ordered and hierarchical structure that puts power and responsibility into the hands of a smaller group of individuals, which can sometimes border into those sort of frustrating, less innovative and creative spaces where there's tension and stasis and people just want to move forward but they can't. And so we talk about this idea of walking the Chaordic Path. And this comes from, it's based on the work of someone called Dee Hock, that some of you may have heard of, the founder and CEO Emeritus of Visa. I won't go into lots of detail about him. I'll share an interview on the Facebook group that is really revealing and fascinating. In terms of his background, he's basically a junior banker that was brought to sort out the total chaos that the credit card industry had run into in the kind of the 60s. And he was a banker, but he was interested in ecology and spirituality, and so he was trying to combine these ideas of work, organisations, big systems, big human systems, and these ideas of how does nature organise. And in that, we talk about this idea of walking the Chaordic Path. And this does point to purpose as our guiding motivator. So there may be some shared assumptions and rules that help us. But at the heart of this is purpose, and service of purpose. And, that's kind of mirrored here, really. We're here for a calling question, which is our purpose. And sometimes purpose can feel like something that's outside of us. You know, if you've worked in brand and communications, often brand teams will come to a consultant and say, we need to come up with a purpose statement. We need to come up with a clear, compelling purpose for our organisation. And At best, that is in service of helping the organisation understand why we exist. At worst, it can be a kind of a branding exercise. Kind of, we know that purpose is important in our marketplace and we need to have one. Really, the best organisations that are working with this, and there are some here today, understand that purpose is both something that we put in the centre, that is shared, that is written down, but we all bring our own meaning to it. The only way that we can navigate these paths is by understanding our meaning in that purpose and connecting to our need, as well as knowing the shared purpose in the centre. And it's being able to sense into that, and this is part of that fourfold practice, this idea of being present to what's alive in me, that helps hold us through these sometimes chaotic spaces and find this level of order that is required. Sometimes the minimum level of order that is required to navigate there.
So just to add a little bit more to this, and the purpose why we're speaking to this particular mental model is for you to think a little bit more around what does it mean to work really well with people? What does that kind of space require? And what does that then ask of the way that we organize ourselves? So when Max was speaking around this chaotic path, this mix between, or the right balance between having enough order and having enough chaos, another way of speaking to that is that is really where leadership is asked for. Whereas in kind of the border between control and order is where management takes place. So this is really helpful when we're in a plane, right? And we would like the pilot to kind of stick to the rules and regulations and not try something new and innovative while we're up in the air, no? So this is super important and really, really helpful. It's not so helpful anymore when we find ourselves in systems that are breaking down or in organizations that are really not functioning well, where people are not happy with their work that they're doing. And so that's when we then want to shift to inviting a little bit more chaos in, and so stepping into that question of what is asked of me, what kind of leadership am I called for? And another piece that we want to bring in is really just two different ways of looking at how can we organize as human beings. There's one way of seeing our organizations as living systems and another way of mechanistic systems. Now these are not necessarily opposing, right? They can work really well together. The idea with mechanistic system is that it fits really well with this piece of management, right? So we have someone at the top of an organization, giving orders to whoever's working for them. The idea that we can predict what's going to happen. When we give something in, we know what's going to be the outcome. And sometimes that's the case. But it's not always. And the idea of a living system, or looking at organizations as a living system, is really kind of a radical shift of asking ourselves, what would it mean if we are in fact a living system? And what are the kind of roles that are then required of us? So that's again working with the idea that there's a purpose at the center that we all gather around. And so a living system only really exists when there is that purpose. Right? As soon as the purpose has been fulfilled, it kind of breaks out again. So it has more of a natural way to it somehow. In this, the roles might not be really clear, because you'll be shifting more quickly also. In here, the roles and responsibilities are often very clear. There might be more silos also, right? Less communication. In here, there's more of a deeper connection or communication between the different parts, because they realize they really need all the other parts as well. So it comes from a different approach somehow. So we really just wanted to offer both of these pieces, just for you to think a little bit and reflect on what does this mean for my own work? How does this relate to perhaps the organization that you're part of, your own initiative that you're running, Yeah, what does it mean?
That's the question. Is there a kind of optional